So one is some of the mega trends that you heard, uh, Asha speak about just in the previous session. These guys are living and bringing those mega trends to life. So Reety and Vaijayanti are from a company called CrisprBits, and many of you may have heard of CRISPR. It's a technology that's changing life literally because it's editing genes for people and in many other contexts. So they will give a little more background on that. And Asha also spoke about data and life science. She spoke about millions of data points in hospitals. Kishan, who is there, has built a company. Uh, Company which operates out of Singapore, Bangalore, and New York. And he has actually gathered those million data points and built products which are being used the world over. And Balamurali is, of course, from Atria, but he brings a lot of experience from the academic side. He's been an ecologist and also very passionate about education. That's my second, kind of point about why we had these people here and why I'm happy. They're all passionate about education, although if I may, their day job is research and development, but they're all in their own ways passionate about education. CRISPRBits works with both school students and college students. School students work in their labs, so if all of you have, any questions about that, you can definitely ask them. Kishan works with college students. He's an alumni of ICER Kolkata, so he's running programs there. But he's also very interested in building an ecosystem out of India for the world. And Balu, of course, is with us because he's passionate about education and what we are doing. And so he's also, going to share his thoughts. So with that, I also want to just ask two of you to set a context from the school side about, because I understand that life science is seen in many different ways by many different people, right? And so it would be nice to set some context from your side about how you see life sciences or how your students see life sciences. What are the concerns, what are the questions, and what do you look forward to? So just very briefly, if you could do that, and then we move on.
Sure. I'm Himanshu Dev. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to build the context. So when we talk about life sciences, of course, I think all of us have studied science and then we lead the science colleges and things like that. But then what are the careers in sciences, So most of the times we see that the schools would be divided into, physics, chemistry, and math on one side, and then physics, chemistry, and biology on one side, and then the whole other school is just losing out on those things. So what we are losing out on there is the sciences. Where is the science? Because some students aspire to become doctors, where the success rate is less than 1%, and some students try to become engineers, but at IIT again the success rate is less than 1%. So from you guys, we would want to understand, as a school, I work on the career counseling space, and we have Dr. Seema who heads a school. So we want to bring it to your context that how we as schools can really work on that students can think about science careers. You come from the business background in sciences as well, and you come from academia. So my idea here is that how do students think about sciences? Because students in grade 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all through, they like sciences. But then what happens? They all study at, let's say, Allen, right? Is it taking them towards sciences, or is it taking them away from sciences? That's the burning question which comes to me. And I work on career and college counseling side. I've got students at all the top universities of the world. When they go to Harvard, when they work at Harvard Medical School and work towards building a vaccine, right? Then they come back, oh my God, it's good that I didn't become a doctor or I did something else. But then till that time, it's very difficult, right? So that's the Kindle which I want to begin with.
So thank you, Himanshu, for setting the context. Good evening, everyone. So as I represent school, what we want to know that this generation Gen Z with whom we are dealing, they are smarter than us. They are technologically more advanced than us. They are the digital native. We are still the migrants, and we are working out on that. So the thing is, when they know that genetically babies can be modified, when they know that if they want a particular kind of thing, suppose if a grade 12 child says, okay, if I want glass skin, this is what I can do. They talk about gene therapy, they talk about everything. They know AI is entering in our life. Rather than entering, AI is already there. So when we talk about life sciences, they might not know what are the careers coming up, but their own Instagram university teach them so many things. So we as educator or school teachers, we really worry about that what we are teaching based on the books. Is it going to be relevant? Because we are teaching the same biology from ages and ages. Then yes, when we heard about so many upcoming challenges that the university is facing, and then how they are training the children with internship and everything, there is no fine line between your geography, your biology, your history. Everything can be intertwined to come up as a beautiful product. So I would like to know more about that, how we can integrate everything, and why still we are working in silos in school. So rather than being in silos, if you can work together in collaboration where all the subjects can come alive and life sciences can be more interesting rather than just teaching the bio bit of that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for giving your perspective and also setting, I guess, the expectations. So we will take that up. I think what I'm going to do is have some questions on that front. Yeah, you can. I have a. So what I'm like, I think there is a set of questions, but of course, please feel free to contextualize in the context that these people have said. So before we do that, could you just quickly use this? Not working?
Okay.
Okay. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Great. Better. Thank you. So just to if you could quickly share your personal trajectories and where you are right now. Yeah.
This is the okay. So I am Balamurali. So I basically had my education in conventional degrees. Like my background is microbiology, biochemistry, microbiology and biochemistry. Then I worked in industry for 2 years after my MS. Then I ventured into research where I worked in cancer biology and bioinformatics for a couple of years. Then moved on to do a PhD in animal behavior and sensory ecology. And that has been my main area of research interest and academic interest from that sense. So I joined Atria some 7 months back. I was working on a project how stressors, environmental stressors, including climate change, affect insect cognition in Newcastle University before joining, and I'm planning to carry over that work. So recently I got awarded Prime Minister's Early Research Grant. So I'm going to work how climate change, especially global warming, will be affecting cognition and neural development in pollinating insects.
Thank you.
All right.
Hi, good evening. I'm Vaijayanti Gupta. I have my bachelor's degree in chemistry. I did basic sciences. Went on to do a PhD, and that's when I fell in love with biology. I was always in love with biology, but was not able to appreciate it at the school level when you had to learn, large nomenclatures and names. But really fell in love with it during my PhD. Did a PhD outside India, University of Maryland, followed by postdoc. That was again a second interaction with a different field when I fell in love with genomics and understanding, DNA sequences, which was bordering on, bringing in components of data science into biology. We wanted to come back to India, me and my husband, so we relocated in 2006. I was in a company called Strand Life Sciences. It's a large bioinformatics company based out of Bangalore. I used to head the R&D over there. I was very conscious that I did not want to go into academics, even though I have the highest of respect, including my spouse who's an academician. But I wanted a career in the industry because I always felt that science needs to be translated, and that's one place where it was lacking in India. For the last 20 years, I have been in India. 2020 pandemic year came out of Strand, and I was lucky that one of the co-founders of Strand wanted to co-found another company called CrisprBits and called me to be part of it. And I think you'll hear more about what we do and subsequent questions. But very happy to be here. Yeah, so that's it. Yes, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Saurabh, for having me here. You are able to hear, right? Here now, better. Yeah. So I think the first thing is like I was like I liked science, and what you mentioned, I continued liking science even in undergrad, and kept doing it until now. But I used to hate biology. Like initially, I used to hate biology a lot, and my inclination was towards like mathematics. I'm also like one of the silver medalists in mathematics Olympiad. So my idea was I'll just go for mathematics. So, but the moment I entered into one of the college, which is premier science institute, it's called Indian Institute of Science Education Research. So there you learn everything. So you like carry whatever you are learning in the school, but it advances in the like curriculum, and then you start learning that science as an individual, it's very difficult to sustain, and you need to have a combination. You need to have an interdisciplinary approach to solve anything. After like graduating, I started liking biology because I got like equipped with tools from physics and mathematics, which allowed me to understand biology in a different way. And so I actually started my PhD in NYU. That was also focused on a very biophysics thing, but then I decided to go into health tech, completely into health tech and health data. And then I started my own company. It's called Neurobit, a New York-based digital health company. We focused on cardiopulmonary disorders, and we make AI medical devices. So right now, it is deployed in over 150 universities and hospitals around the world. And I think that's one of the answers to what you were mentioning, that we need to carry on that science thing for a long time. And also it has given me a different approach in thinking process. So it's not only about the subject matter, but it's also about how do we break down the problem, whether it's business problem or even a technology problem, how do we break it down from the first principle. So that is something which I've taken from the science.
Hi, everybody. I'm Reety Arora. I thank you, Saurabh and Atria, for having me here. I'll actually start from high school. I love biology and maths. And that was a big problem for my parents at that point, because they're like, what do we do with this kid? And then I said, I don't want to be a doctor. So that was another problem for them, because they just didn't know what to do with me. And I still remember, it was very sweet of my father. My entire family comes from a non-science background. And he started calling up people, figuring out, how to advise me. And he sets up this meeting with the director of biochemistry in IIT Delhi. And without telling me, he just takes me on surprise, I'm taking you somewhere. And we walk in, and it was really nice of her to, spend some time with us and explain that you can do research and there are these possibilities. And so I went up taking both biology and maths, and decided that research was going to be my career from a very early on stage in life, thanks to the career guidance. And now I feel like at that point, of course, with the current ways I was guided at that point, it worked out. But if somebody would have told me at that point I could have done an MBBS and then research, maybe life would have been different, because I did love to have studied the MBBS route, but I didn't want to be, working as a doctor seeing patients, but I do love the research aspect of it. So that being said, then of course I went and did Bachelor's of Engineering in Biotech. Then I went and studied a PhD in molecular biology. So I did my Bachelor's in Chandigarh in Punjab University. I did PhD in University of Pittsburgh in molecular biology, viruses that cause cancer. Came back to India, started as a postdoc in INSTEM, which is Stem Cell Biology Institute for Regenerative Medicine. Then moved to NCBS, which is National Center for Biological Sciences, was a postdoc, had my own fellowship, was there for a long time. And then post-COVID, sort of again decided, okay, had a really nice time in academics. Now I want to try something different. Started looking at job possibilities. CrisprBits had just started. I applied, luckily got through, and here I am about almost 3 years in, and it's really fun, and we'll talk about what's going on later. So a very, very different route, but I think just wanted to give that context that after academics, industry is still also possible, and
Of course.
Various other routes are possible.
Yeah, I want to pick up from there actually, and I think somewhat speaks to what you raised. And we see it also among the students who join us, particularly first year, second year, it goes on even till fourth year. And it's perhaps natural, but I think people at that stage tend to over-engineer their life. It's not possible. When you see in retrospect from all of these people or anyone actually, I think different things happen, and I think you have to be ready to kind of leverage and explore and then take it as it goes, but still kind of having the let's say balance to make use of different opportunities. So I don't know how it looks practically at your level or what you do in terms of counseling and careers, but I think at least in hindsight, I think a lot of that is, being over-optimistic. So with that, I think I just wanted to ask everyone, could you elaborate a little bit on what you actually do at work and what your organizations do, and also, the global context, because all of you have been both here, abroad. Yeah, and that was the third thing I wanted to say earlier. You have all come back here to do something here, right? And so how does that look? Yeah, you maybe start from there. Yeah. Good. Balu, you go ahead. So for you, I say, like, because you have been at Atria just for a short time, but you have done research in ecology. So how does at Newcastle, right? So how does that look, and what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I can speak about my field, where ecology and evolutionary biology research. So right now, the best place to be is in India. So a lot of universities are actually trying to get a base in here through collaborations, and even Dia spoke about Jammu University. I personally know a lot of foreign collaborations which is going on in Jammu University, and a lot of ICERs people are collaborating with. In fact, my PhD was partially done in ICER Trivandrum and University of Exeter in UK. So it was a collaborative project from UK. So the thing is that as a country, we have not yet explored our biodiversity and ecological processes to the maximum. So for my PhD, I compared how, so I'll set a context in that. I work with pollinators, especially bees. So I work to compare the behavior of tropical and temperate bees, and found out that there are a lot of differences. There are a lot of differences in how they behave and in their sensory ecology also. So which was taken for granted. Everything which was known about bees was extrapolated from what we knew from Western honeybees. So it's only the case of bees. We have so many animals. The biodiversity is vast, and we yet don't know anything about it. So I think at least for ecology and evolutionary biology, India is the happening place now. I would not say India alone, tropicals. The paleotropics are the best place to study ecology and the impacts of climate change. That could be best addressed.
Yeah, no, I think you wanted. No, so I just wanted to add a context. We are actually, working with a startup. Started from an employee who exited out of Uber, but he wants to do something for biodiversity in India. And we are not able to find people. Of course, there are people in academics, and that's important. The fundamental research itself is important. But people who want to take that knowledge and, do something about it, I think we do have a lot of good ecological research labs and institutes, but just the scale of India and what is possible, I think there is just tons of opportunities, right? So I think that's just wanted to add that. If you could tell us a little bit about CrisprBits, but also in the global context of the CRISPR revolution.
So very quickly, so Reety, I will focus more on the diagnostic and the in silico and the in vitro. Maybe you can talk more about the in vivo part of it, your expertise. So CRISPR is actually a technology that's called writing the genome. In the year around 2000, at the turn of that time, I was doing my PhD, is when the genome got sequenced. People never believed that you could actually read an entire human being's genome, and actually make sense out of it. And today we know that there are, it's not just all over the world. I mean, you look at companies, some of the leading companies worldwide that can actually do this genome reading is actually here, based out of Bangalore. Year 2012 is when there was another revolutionary technology that kind of came to light. And it was one of those, it was a first in many ways. The technology was called CRISPR. And I mean, without going into a lot of technical details, it was a system that was isolated from the bacteria, but very quickly the scientists realized the power of it, that you could use this extreme specificity of being able to identify a sequence and edit it. So they quickly adapted it to editing everything, from human cells to cell lines to even, stem cells, and figuring out the applications. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. One of the firsts of CRISPR was, that it was the first set of papers came out in 2012 when people actually understood what CRISPR was. And the Nobel Prize was 2020, one of the shortest journeys from technology discovery to actually getting a Nobel Prize. It's, in fact, people said that it was one of the most, if not the most disruptive technology of the decade, pretty much. So that's how CrisprBits, it was. So the Bangalore ecosystem does have a lot of pioneers in life science, and we always felt that India is in a catch-up game with technology. Now that there is one technology that is out there, and we should be one of the first people to lead with it, not just adapt or adopt what is out there after a decade or so. And with that vision, CrisprBits started in 2020. What we do at CrisprBits is pretty much every bit of CRISPR. That's what we like to call ourselves. The idea is we develop platforms using this technology. So if I may explain, it's a very simple set of enzymes that look like nothing but a few microliters of liquid in what was just called, right, that Eppendorf tube. And into it, you add DNA, RNA, that can come from a very crude extract, an extract of a plant leaf, something heated out of a bacterial culture or blood. And you should be able to, that whole enzyme is able to identify the sequence of that you really want to target it, and basically make an edit. Now you can do this inside a cell. You can introduce that whole system into a cell, and that's the gene editing part of it. Reety is the expert in it. I'll let her talk about it. My passion is using this highly specific identification of ability of CRISPR into translating it into diagnostics. So while we started exploring CRISPR, we also found a lot of very interesting things that, it requires very simple infrastructure. You can get this level of specificity, but you can just work in a tube. So that's when we started reimagining that, can we really make diagnostics so simple that you and I can actually run it off a lab, not in a lab alone? Can you run it at an ICU bed? Can you run it in a primary healthcare? Can you run it at the food technology where you are processing chocolates or milk? Can the farmer run it to look at, the health of the cows or the cattle in the farm? Can you run it to look at, if there is going to be an outbreak of a certain disease by looking at the sewage water? And in our lab, we are doing all of this. We have done some of this. We have looked at sewage water and, during the COVID outbreak, and found traces of Omicron before the outbreak. We are using it to look at, food matrices, so that, when food packaging happens, at that point of time, you can actually test. We are looking at, obviously, healthcare is our personal, it's a huge thing. So, trying to build these tests such that you can actually take it to a hospital ICU, and the nurse can run it. So that's pretty much what we are doing. That's the diagnostic platform, one of the platforms that we built, and we are planning to roll out products.
Yeah, maybe Reety and then back to Kishan.
Reety talk about the gene editing part.
Yeah, I think is this how the genetic counselors work?
Genetic counselors work and that's a great field or a great career path. In fact, that should be promoted and thought of for our, the next batch of scientists. Genetic counselors they study genetics, they understand genetics. So when that sequence is read from your genome, whether it is for a rare disease or, a hereditary trait of cancer that may be running through the family, the genetic counselor now sits down with the family and explains to them what are the options. In certain cases, if there is a breast cancer mutation gene running in the family, what are your options of handling that breast cancer? you could get regular checkups, you could go for option, you could opt for certain, surgical procedures, or you could just, bring out the surveillance and tell all your family members to get screened, etc. Or if there is a rare disease, how does a family plan for its next child? Having gone through, let's say, a couple of really hard, situations with their first few pregnancies. Or how do you even plan a pregnancy? Let's say if both partners are carrying the trait of sickle cell syndrome. That's the role of genetic counselors. Great field from, from where you merge science and social science and counseling.
One of our diagnostics that we are building is for sickle cell anemia, and sickle cell anemia is a rare disorder in India, quite common, and there are a lot of carriers, and that is again, a field where genetic counseling is very important. So to add to what Vaijayanti was saying, we are also building a platform for sort of having a disease model itself for rare disorders, where a patient unfortunately right now suffers because there's not even a way to model the disease and not even a way to understand quote unquote CRISPRability of a possibility of a cure for that disease. So yes, you hear of this great technology, but how do you take it forward? So in our platform, our vision is that the patient's blood cells will be converted into induced pluripotent stem cells, and that itself is a disease model for the rare disorder. And then that would be studied and used for preclinical settings to generate if you can CRISPR edit that as a possibility of a cure. And with that, taking that to actually the trial for n equal to 1 to have a possibility of therapy for that particular patient. And besides that, we also do services, and we're learning a lot as we go. Again, every bit of CRISPR, we are extending it. We're trying to do some climate change sustainability projects. We're trying to do editing in different organisms which have not been functionally tested before, to see if we can understand them better with collaborations with academics, and also use them for better production in certain aspects of the industry, where the standard organisms and cell lines have been used for so many years, but making them more efficient.
Kishan, I have a slight twist on this question. So you run a company out of Singapore, Bangalore, New York, and you once told me what are the differences in the cultures in these three places and what you do differently in these three places. So if you could.
Yeah. So I think, are you able to hear? So first I'll just tell about like what we.
No.
That's great.
This time?
Yeah.
So first I'll tell you like what we do in Neurobit. In Neurobit, like we are a digital health company, and we build softwares, but as a medical device. And it's a class 2 medical device. So what it actually means is it can take certain form of clinical decisions. So if there are mistakes in those decisions, we are responsible for it. So what it also means is like we need to validate everything thoroughly before we give it to patients. And for that, you need lots and lots of data. You need lots of data, and you also need lot of diversity of data. So you need different population, and you need to validate it on different population data set. And that is one of the most important reason why we are in Singapore, we are in New York, we are in Bangalore. And over like last 8 years, we have been able to collect like kind of world's largest polysomnography data. It's a type of data where your physiological data are collected overnight. This is a very rich source of data. But interesting thing is when I draw the pie chart of like what's the distribution of that data across the world, India is like very, very thin in that pie chart. One of the reason is like it's very, very difficult to even build partnership and collaboration in India, and we are working on that, like how to build it. So cultural differences in the three places, definitely there are cultural differences in working style and how people interact with each other, like even delivery time. So all those things are a bit different. Cost of living is obviously different, but also I think all the three places have its own advantage and some disadvantage. So for us, like for a company which is solving like a global problem, it is important to be like, at different places. You cannot just be at like one place, one type of data, and survive on that.
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to highlight is I think so life science not only it's diverse, so a lot of things come together, but even geographically, I think it's a global thing, right? Because we are all, after all, humans and living people. I want to ask about careers. I think that's one of the things that's most interesting. So I want to again put it differently. Can you tell us two people or roles that your companies depend on for success, apart from you?
I think one of the most important thing is because we are a biomarker discovery company. So people who have, so again, I can like, if I have to just say generally like what's the role, it's going to be data science. But now data science itself has multiple layers in it. You need to be more specific into data science and what. So someone who has specialization in say healthcare data, have they worked on that healthcare data? So a role like that helps a lot. A second, I think most important thing, which I realized much later on, and I should have got like that person as a first or second employee, is the regulatory processes. Because if you are in a life science or healthcare, the most important thing is the regulatory and the compliance process, and it has to be like in parallel to the development process. So a regulatory head and a data science will be like two most important role.
Okay, sure. Thank you. Yeah, for CrisprBits, you and our interns. Sorry, I missed that.
So I think for a company like CrisprBits, I mean, I think each company will have its own answer. I think the first and foremost is the science. We are a science company. So there is absolutely no, there is no second to that. So now the science could be diverse. It could be molecular biologists, it could be cell biologists, it could be bioinformatics, but science is absolutely at the core of our company. Being a company, being a startup, if there is the second part, which is equally important, is you have to survive, right? You have to get money, you have to pay all your employees, you have to take the science further, and you have to sell these products. So the second role, which we feel is equally important, is a very focused commercial role. And this is very important from a career perspective to understand. In our company, all our commercials are either masters or PhDs in life sciences and then have gone on to do healthcare MBAs. So life sciences and healthcare in particular also requires not just generic selling, or it is not the same as selling a consumer product. It is, you have to know what you want to sell. You need to, and the way we are trying to develop the culture of the company is that the scientists and the commercial go hand in hand together. One should be explaining the science, whether it's a conference, whether it's a client. The other should be actually then talking about how to commercialize it or what are our products. Yeah, so at least that's.
Yeah, thank you. I'll take that as the answer for CrisprBits. And I'm sure there's going to be more time. I think they'll be around when you have specific questions. But one last question for all of you. A very specific suggestion of how school students could have some early exposure to non-school, because that's one of the problems I think, and which I have felt as an educator, is I think school biology has not changed, and that's why the comment you made that biology has been the same. Of course, biology is the same, but the tragedy is that school biology has remained the same, while science has, you can see where it has moved. So what can they do to expose the students, or what can the students do? One very specific suggestion. You have something? Okay, we'll hear from them.
Preeti, you want to start?
So, one specific suggestion is don't rely on them to find cool things to do online. Make a workshop where that can be structured so they learn through an expert as opposed to finding something themselves. So, I mean, at that early in life, you can't expect them to be so self-driven. So maybe having a diverse set of people coming and actually doing a hands-on workshop, it could be, spaced out every 3 months or every 6 months, gives them that exposure from an expert in the right way. So I think that.
I think my point would be, if you can provide something like a toned down version of Atria University, like you have a project which is much simpler, but students get involved in that project, and the project is very relevant to what is happening in the world right now. And if we look at the tools right now which are there, that has simplified a lot of things. Like something which we used to do in, like, say, final years of our undergrad, right now it is possible for school students to try it out, because there are no code environments and there are a lot of things that can be tried out. So they can get a very early exposure to what is happening in the world.
Yeah, and AU will be happy to be the bridge to bring the real world even to school. So yeah.
So I'll speak from my personal experience, because I am a mother of a high school kid and exactly looking at her biology syllabus, which I know is life processes, same digestion, respiration, excretion, going in exactly the same, right? So one of the biggest things I feel in teaching biology, and I would love to have more discussion on this, is that when you teach biology, children are not able to associate it with physics and chemistry. You need to understand that the cell is a factory. One needs to understand the kinetics from you're teaching calculus. Why do you have to do calculus? Why do you need to understand these concepts? So that cross learning, and biology, whether you become a doctor or whether you become a researcher, is constantly changing. You will need to understand AI, you will need to understand automation, you will need to understand physics, and chemistry is at the core of biology. So to me, I think when teachers also prepare for their classes or when they talk, it cannot be a passive learning, because no child can have a focus for more than half an hour just listening to a whole bunch of names being told or notes being written. How do we make that? And this is a huge issue I see with CBSE, with due respect of a mom who's sending her child to a CBSE school.
Yeah, so she has actually put it very nicely, whatever I wanted to speak about. So the transdisciplinary aspect has to be brought into biology. That's the first thing that we should do as educators. So like she said, biology is not independent of chemistry, physics, or mathematics. Right from development of an embryo, where morphogenesis has multiple applications from gradation, mathematics, and chemistry, we should equip them with the knowledge that its biology cannot be separated from all the other branches of sciences. That is what most of the students here in Atria did not take biology for their plus two. When I asked them, my first class I started with, how many of you are interested in biology? Not many hands went up, because they said that they are afraid of biology because they have to mug up scientific names and jargons. So we have to move away from that sort of education where they are forced to study scientific names. Okay, scientific names are important, but it is not biology for me. So that is one of the things.
Sorry, I think, briefly, if you could.
I'd add too much to that.
Yeah, no, you can. No.
So, just to add to what you're saying, one of the founders of of CrisprBits is actually not from a biology background at all. He's completely trained in, right? So this is what I think is not coming out enough in high school students, that your entire career path doesn't depend on what you do right now. And I mean, Professor and Dr. Vijay Chandru, he is a computer scientist by training, then led a biology company for 2 companies. So first for, 30 years, and then the second one also biology. And the vision to see, as an entrepreneur, both companies in biology and then build that together it's something that comes out of the transdisciplinary.
Absolutely. Yeah. So thank you so much for all of you sharing your perspectives. And again, whoever is around, I think they can, you can interact with them and know more. They all work with school students and college students. So again, thank you so much.